Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I'm a digital transformation expert. I've done that for about a decade and a half for commercial innovations in the corporate space, and then have dived into becoming an entrepreneur because I believed that this is needed in Naturethings to help solve for regenerative cities. So let me unpack that digital transformation, regenerative cities. Today, we're going to be talking about a very exciting kind of tech called digital twins. So let me start with something super familiar, right? How many of you today are wearing a smartwatch or a Fitbit or a smartphone, carrying a smartphone in your bag? I see so much enthusiasm, right? Smartwatch, smartphone, anyone? Or how many of you are not carrying a smartphone? Right. So almost everybody in the room. And congratulations, you all have a digital twin. Right. So this is the most powerful form of, or a revolutionary form of computation technology that we are all holding today. So let's unpack what's firing there, right? First, there is a hardware component that is sitting on you, on your wrist or in your pocket, which is actually collecting a lot of data signals. Then there's a layer of software that's translating that into some meaningful metrics, raw data, which is then being crunched by your AI models, your health models, billion-dollar value models, into meaningful signals that are then presented to you in very powerful analytics in a beautiful representation on your watch face or on your smartphone, which is helping you manage your health and well-being on the go, right? So this is, in effect, is a digital twin. And when we bring that from an individual into a city, what does that translate into, right? So it translates into a regenerative output. Cities are our front line for managing climate risk. While these are the centers for most amount of heat stress, flood risk, biodiversity loss, they're also simultaneously and paradoxically the biggest sources of how we can potentially contribute the maximum amount of impact to climate risk. So how does a green roof or a green wall really contribute to mitigating these outcomes? Let's take a look at this.
In an increasingly urbanized world, it seems as if cities and nature are separate ideas, places that have no connection with each other. But what happens if we change our mentality? By thinking of them as a living organism, we can tackle issues such as air pollution, global warming, and biodiversity loss, and counter the impact of climate change. One way of achieving this is the creation and restoration of green areas. They improve air quality and act as carbon sinks. By implementing infrastructure such as green roofs or sustainable drainage systems, it's possible to reduce urban heat, improve energy efficiency, and create healthier environments for residents.
Right. So when we have greener systems closer to where there's the most amount of heat stress getting created, biodiversity loss, health and well-being compromise, as well as air quality compromises getting created, the reversal is possible because nature is the single biggest lever that we can pull to create regenerative cities. And in the World Economic Forum in COP26, it was discussed that if 1 million municipalities came together to galvanize nature, there will be a concrete impact to climate risk. Obviously, we're in 2030. Clearly, the pace or momentum of nature has not taken off the way it should in urban cities. So that is really where we believe technology is going to be crucial. But the challenge today is the traditional pathways where we have almost a $300 billion industry parked, has no measurement. The reporting is ad hoc, mainly issue-driven. There's a failure. I write up a report if I'm a vendor and I submit it. There is a manual verification of any of the effects, typically in an award-winning project where somebody subjectively goes in and analyzes these things with tools. So basically, there's no data available for decision-making. So the data is invisible. The role of technology is really, for those of you who know about theory of change, it's about creating or becoming a force multiplier for creating impact at scale. It generates data, which in turn informs management and financial decision-making and investment, which then relates to galvanizing scale. So how does a digital twin come into play? Very simply, hardware generates the signals, which becomes the foundation of data. The software, using API and standardized data structures, then translates this into meaningful input for large language models or for AI, which then makes use of the numerous local and global standards, as well as the ecology, the physics, the various science-based foundational understanding to translate it into alerts, predictive maintenance protocols, deep, detailed financial reports, which then becomes the foundation for taking robust decision making. Because ultimately, when it's a GM or a banker or a facility manager, they all need to be answerable for the data, the measurability. So, this is how the digital twin is really making the difference. So, digital twins with technology as technology are the force multiplier. And it wouldn't be possible without the hardware component, which is really the frontline aspect of converting the physical into digital, along with the software and the AI components. Let me give you a quick example of an architecture that is atypical to any building management system, including what we're using at Naturethings, on how this works. So from a building, we're capturing multitude of data from hardware and sensors, from from irrigation systems, from the building, from the vegetation, etc. All of these are coming in various different languages. So MQTT, LoRaWAN, all of that, the software then translates into singular language or data, which is index tagged and fed into learning systems. And for the artificial intelligence to then use foundational models and certification standards to then create predictive maintenance, alerts, protocols. And all of this is then served in form of a beautiful visualization, which is really where the change, the behavioral change on field starts to happen. Because this 3D visualization is where the prompts are given, the data is presented in a human understood manner for the next steps. So effectively, what the digital twin is today able to deliver in case of a use case of Naturethings is a DMRV system. And so DMRV stands for Digital Measurement, Reporting and Verification System on one hand. The other use case we have is on the asset performance management, where we literally have a green roof or a couple of trees or a whole entire nature for a 1 hectare space getting managed, where alerts are generated, work orders are generated on a daily basis, or detailed reports are generated for the leadership to use for green linked loans to serve as verification for the job delivered. The other kind of use cases actually are very unassuming. You might have all experienced them firsthand. So in the industry, we see that digital twins, especially vision scan based hardware and software and AI twins, are being used for species identification. So most of you with an iPhone can just snap a shot on your camera. If there's any vegetation, your iPhone naturally pings you with what is the name of the species of plant, right? So this is a digital twin in action. Next, even a little more advanced is coming into health detection. It can actually predict what kind of a health failure there is looking at just a photo. And companies like Greenhill are even using a digital twin to analyze using LiDAR and camera tech to measure the height of trees, which was otherwise a very scary and a very expensive exercise for somebody to have a scaffolding. You have to rise to a height of close to 40 meters at times. So all of this is now being offset by technology. Further, this is also helping us track at scale what's happening to specifically nature, and within that urban nature, which is one of the most challenging nature to track because of the sheer amount of conflicting agendas that are there to really run the technology for captures. So it's exciting. In under 6 years, right? What we've seen technology made visible is the level of data that is unprecedented, right? So we know that computational power and speed has grown at a revolutionary pace in adjacent categories like healthcare, like our watches. But to see it in action in tech, in terms of data, so 3.5 million hectares by Husqvarna, a Swiss-based entity, they capture urban nature spaces around the world. So 3.5 million hectares of space have been captured by them. 40 hectares have been then used in... So when technology then advances, right, as NParks has managed to use, it's been used for decision making because it provides a holistic information of what's happening to the soil, to the vegetation, to the microclimate, etc. So habitat restoration of over 40 hectares has been done till date, with a plan to restore, I think, 80 hectares by 2030. And in case of Naturethings, now it's deepened all the way into a service twin where we're able to provide daily, almost dynamic data for asset performance management for over a hectare of urban green spaces. So that's really where it stands. So effectively, when you bring hardware and software and AI together,
this is our moment to make the invisible visible and unleash the new nature of modern business.
Thank you so much. That's what I wanted to share today. Hopefully, we're on the path to building modern businesses.